And obviously Joseph's part is awesome. So if you guys are watching this on his channel, you got to go check him out because he did an excellent job. Here's a quick tip. If you're out filmmaking in a remote location like this, always bring a headlamp. Not even so much for like right now, even when you're breaking down. Because like
I went through that with my mom. Yeah. The last time she went to her apartment was when she went to the hospital for a week. When she came out, she thought she was at a rehabilitation place. She said, "When am I going home?" I go, "Mom, you don't really want to go home. There's people here to take care of you." And the first couple of days, she was like, "No, I want to go home."
Yeah. I know. My mom was the opposite. My mom was willing to stay in the hospital because it was easier for friends and guards to come visit her.
Well, the place where we had my mom was next to PhotoChem, and it was like a resort hotel.
Yeah.
She was too old to really take full advantage. She was 96 when they put her there to take full advantage of it. But
My mom and dad died 18 days.
That's
broken heart.
Not as, yes and no, but my dad was sick for about 10 years and had dementia.
these are not long
And
enough.
he sit down and then we'll go to the word and put him in a home a week a block away from where they live.
And then she didn't want to be around anymore.
No, she just what happened is she contracted lung cancer, which probably was somewhat of a
How's it going, guys?
Good.
Hobby. Hobby?
Hobie.
Hobie.
Yeah.
Great. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you. All right, everybody, can I have your attention, please? We are going live from the Condor Blue booth with our good friend Michael Bravin and Steven Poster ASC. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yay! Yay!
Nice to see all of you. I couldn't be more excited to be here today with my friend Steven Poster ASC.
Close. Hold it close.
Steven's been a friend
Yeah.
and a mentor for, a long time, and a very talented filmmaker. And came to talk. I work for Canon, and he came to talk with me about 3 or 4 months ago about shooting a feature that we're going to talk about today called "Scared to Death." And I was so excited because he shot the movie with Canon C500s and our flex zooms.
Yes, the flex zooms and the primes. What am I whistling? Okay, and the primes.
So what made you decide to use the C500?
Well, you know what? Let's take a look at the footage first.
Okay.
I'm going to do it twice. Okay, so play the footage first, and then I'll talk about it.
Great.
Okay, these are just 4 shots. We just finished shooting about a week and a half ago, and there are about 4 shots that I grabbed from the editor and got ready to be able to present here. They're without sound. Oh, here we go. But this is a dark attic with lights flashing because the ghosts in the house are being active, and on the big screen you can see all the way through the background. Okay, there was a bat that just flew by them, which we'll put in post, of course. And all right, next is just a normal outdoor shot. And the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm going to tell you something about it that I think will surprise you once we see the rest of the footage. Okay. Should never show anything without sound, but this was impossible to get it. And it's a little hard to see here, of course, in the environment. But this is a seance room. And this is where everything goes bad. And that was on a Ronin, that shot. It is coming up a little darker than... Woo, hello. Okay, so those shots and the entire movie was shot at 3200 ASA. So the entire movie was shot at 3200 ASA. The Canon, I shot it on the Canon C500 Mark II. I happen to really appreciate the color science from Canon, and I'll tell you why in a minute. We used mostly battery lights, which I was knocked out by because this was the first time I was able to do that. They were all DMX'd. They were all controllable from an iPad. So we could go into any environment in this house. It was all shot in one house, and change the scene from day to night to lights on, lights off, flashing lights, and it was a very simple process to do all that. But the thing about the Canon C500 and all the Canon cameras, they do two things differently than any other manufacturer does. And I told you this, and you confirmed it. The first thing is when you increase the speed of the sensitivity of the chip, they put more voltage to the chip, which keeps the black level right at where it's so consistent, and you get very, very little noise. And the other thing that they do is they fire the photo sites randomly, so if you do get any noise, it looks like film grain. It moves around like film grain moves around. And that to me is an advantage, which is one of the reasons that I shot it at 3200, because I wanted some of that noise to give it some texture, and rather than putting it in post.
That's wonderful. I know that you've shot a couple other projects with our cameras, but this was the first time that a feature was shot using the flex zooms, so, which are our full frame, a pair of full frame zooms. You want to talk a little bit about that?
The great part about the flex zooms, I've never seen a zoom that doesn't breathe. The flex zooms they don't breathe at all, meaning the size of the image doesn't change as you zoom. And that's something I've never seen in a zoom lens before. It really made a huge difference. We were able to use them as a variable focal length lens, and we were able to use them as a zoom. That was a great advantage.
And you also shot with the Sumire Prime. So, what was the distinction on the scenes that you shot with the zooms versus using the primes?
Well, I primarily used the primes on the Ronin. We had a Ronin and a Ronin operator with us, and as a matter of fact, it took the place of a dolly because the location we were shooting in didn't. It wasn't a great place to have a dolly. It was 3 floors and a basement, and you'd have to really. It'd be impossible to move that thing around. So we ended up using the Ronin to make our camera moves as opposed to being on a dolly. The other thing about the Ronin that I learned, because I had never worked with a Ronin before, about using the Ronin as a remote head, which got me out of trouble on 3 or 4 shots that I wouldn't have been able to do any other way if they were operated physically. So that's primarily where we use the prime lenses. They're really, you could not see a difference between the primes and the zoom. I mean, they're really a good match. Now, I didn't. The primes have the ability, if you open up wide, to have a little diffusion in there for beauty shots. I didn't use it that way. I shot everything at 2.8, between 2.8 and a 4. So, when you think about shooting 3200 ASA at between a 2.8 and a 4, of course, there were times when I had to use the built-in neutral densities because there was too much light, and I didn't want to stop down to a 5, 6, or an 8. And it made it possible with the internal internal NDs to keep working at the level that I wanted to work at.
So the daytime exterior that you showed, you also shot at 3200?
Daytime exterior was shot at 3200. I wanted it to be consistent for the grain.
And did you have to use, or have you had to use any noise reduction for post-production?
No, we haven't done any noise reduction. In fact, if it's one of the things that I did as a protective measure is that we had a lookup table, a LUT, that allowed for a half a stop cheat. So I was really putting the signal in the middle of the where it should be, and if I went darker, it was safe, and that was an important safety valve for me. And I was live grading, which meant that I was coloring the material as I was shooting it. And we produced what's called a CDL, or Cinematographer's Decision List, which comes up with JPEGs and lookup tables for everything. So we graded the film as we went.
And the dailies that you were looking at had the same look on them?
The dailies were transcoded with the look. So the director and the editor will be able to edit with the real look of the film.
One of the things that was really fulfilling for me was when I came to the test that you were doing, and I know you were sold on that's the camera and lens system that you want to use, but I know Paul Boyd, your director, was a very skeptical, and to watch that transformation from him being skeptical to completely embracing it was really exciting.
Yeah, in the test, he had some ideas about maybe shooting anamorphic. We didn't do that. We shot full frame, but with a 2:40 aspect ratio. So it looks like a widescreen film, but it doesn't have the anamorphic lenses.
So the cool thing about the flex zooms that you used on this feature is that we're showing at this NAB a companion pair of lenses, which are Super 35. The same lenses, but they have different relays inside of them. So you can exchange the relays and you can exchange the mounts and convert them to Super 35 lenses at T1.7. So maybe we can get you to shoot
That's
Super
very
35
interesting.
the next time.
Yeah. Now the other thing I did was I never shoot without some kind of diffusion. I cannot. In fact, sometimes I dirty up my glasses because I don't want to look at the world without diffusion. But I was using. This is the first film ever that used the Tiffin black fogs and then the Tiffin night fogs, and those are brand new. They just came out on the market. It's a wonderful form of diffusion. I helped develop them, so my whole idea was to bring back the magic of the double fog. You know, in the 70s and 80s, the double fog filters were very popular. In fact, I don't think Owen Roisman would ever shoot without a double fog of some kind. And I wanted to bring it back for the digital age. And that's why I did the combination of glass that I did.
And do you use the same value? Of filters using them on digital camera as you would when shooting with a film?
Well, these were primarily developed for digital. I've not tested them on film, so I don't know. I even have small ones for my Leica. So
that's great.
Yeah.
While I have you here, and it's kind of off topic about Scared to Death, is I know one of the things that you've been working with that you're dear to your heart is the 6P color system. You
Absolutely.
Want to talk a little bit about that?
6P color is a color system that is brand new that allows for additional colors in digital displays. Now, we all are tuned to see digital displays with red, green, and blue. Okay? Reality says, oh, red, green, and blue, yeah, you can synthesize all the other colors. But no, you can't. In fact, you only see 45% of the colors the human eye can see with any digital display. We have found a way to increase the number of colors within digital displays. We have a demo that's available to see at the Tiffin Manufacturing, what we call 6P Burbank, and it's a 16:9 20-foot wall with LED wall with an additional color of cyan. The importance of cyan is that it fills out the CIE chart to about 70% of what the human eye can see. And we can add additional colors, which we're doing in the lab now, and we've got it up to about 90% of the colors the human eye can see. The importance of that is the emotional connection of the viewer to the image. It affects you much differently than just seeing synthesized colors from RGB. And that's something that nobody's ever experienced before. You experience when you go, for instance, and when you see the Caribbean and the color of the blue and the cyan in the water and the air, it's been discovered that your optic nerves release a chemical called melanopsin, which bathes the neurons in your brain and makes you feel a sense of awe, a sense of relaxing awe. And you can't do that any other way than creating that in a digital display. So it's a brand new system. It's backwards compatible with all the other systems. It fills out the CIE chart, and you can work in ACES AP0, and it is a. The other thing is that we're discovering is that, you know, when you release a film now, a company, a production company or a distribution company has to do versions. Up to, in fact, Avatar said they did 1,200 versions to release that movie, and you have to do a master for every version. With our system, you only do one master for the entire process. You can derive all of the versions from one master. That's a huge savings.
What do you think the timeline is for this to be adopted in mainstream filmmaking? Do you have a rough idea?
You know,
or?
the situation is this. You don't have to do anything while you're shooting to adopt it, because the chip that you're shooting on, whichever camera you're using, captures far more color than is processed out. The chip has all the colors available to you if you get the raw image, and if you don't, then you're processing out to RGB. But if you do, I mean, those chips go even into the ultraviolet. You know, if you need, they're much more, I'd say, much more facile than what we are using. So we're throwing away all that color.
Yeah.
We want to use it.
Yeah, similar to what we're going through now with HDR, where if you shoot raw log, you have the ability to post-produce for HDR. So really what we need to do is all of us here in the audience need to encourage manufacturers like Canon and Sony to manufacture monitors, and the projector companies to be able to see all the color that's available.
And LED walls. You know, the difficulty with LED walls is that if you use the color from an LED wall for lighting, and then you add a second light, you add like an incandescent light or LEDs that aren't tuned, it doesn't match. And you know, the big joke about LED walls. The big joke about LED walls, there aren't any here, is that very often on the set you'll hear, "Let's go to green," because they can't make it work on the set.
Got it. All right. Well, for those of you in the audience listening, I want to make sure to invite you, those of you that are in the LA area, to come to the Tiffin Engineering Center and see the 6P color. And those of you who are going to be coming to Cinegear, we're going to be doing a big presentation. Steven's going to be on stage with Paul Boyd and Eric Barrett, and probably we'll get your DIT and your first, and we'll show on the big screen at Paramount, back on the lot at Paramount, some more
footage,
of the film.
Maybe with sound even.
Yeah, with sound. And visual effects.
And visual effects,
yeah.
Right.
Well, thank you for taking the time today, Steven. It's always great to talk to you, and thank all of you in the audience for coming here and listening to what we had to blab about today.
Great to see all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Thanks.
Good.
Your
finger on the trigger. And with our vast ecosystem of accessories, the perfect rig is right at your fingertips. Take flight with the new Condor Blue Trigger Wing Side Grip. This is the new Shoulder Pad Air from Condor Blue, our versatile solution